The last passenger. In the autumn of 2014, a strange legend circulated through a small town in northern Russia. People said that if you boarded the last Route 17 bus after midnight and rode it all the way to the final stop, you would meet someone who was no longer alive. Most people considered it nothing more than an urban legend, except for Ilya. He was 22 years old, a university student renting a small apartment near the train station. One evening, while sitting in a cafe with friends, the conversation turned to local ghost stories. "That's all nonsense," Ilya laughed. "People love making up scary stories." "Then prove it," his friend Artem replied. "It's Friday. The last bus leaves in an hour." Ilya grinned. "Fine, I'll go." 40 minutes later, he stood alone at an empty bus stop. A cold drizzle fell from the sky. The streets were deserted. Even the streetlights flickered weakly, with every second lamp dark. At exactly 12:17 a.m. an old bus emerged from the darkness. The first strange thing was that Ilya had never seen it before. The vehicle looked ancient, as if it had rolled straight out of the 1990s. The destination sign displayed only one number, 17. The doors opened with a metallic groan. Inside were only 3 passengers: an elderly woman by the window, a man in a gray coat, and a young woman with long black hair. All of them stared straight ahead. None of them even turned their heads. Ilya took a seat near the exit. The bus pulled away. 5 minutes later, he noticed something unsettling. The streets were completely empty. Not a single car, not a single pedestrian, no lights in the apartment windows. It was as if the entire city had died. He checked his phone. No signal. The screen flickered and went black. The battery had been fully charged less than an hour ago. A chill ran down his spine. He looked toward the driver. The man sat unnaturally still, too still, like a mannequin. The bus continued moving. Stop after stop passed by, yet nobody boarded. Nobody got off. Then the girl in front slowly turned her head, very slowly, as though her neck resisted every movement. She looked directly at him. Her eyes were completely black. No whites, no pupils, only darkness. Ilya froze. He blinked, and her eyes appeared normal again. The girl turned away. "Relax," he whispered to himself. "You're just tired." But the fear inside him continued to grow. A few minutes later, the bus stopped beside an old cemetery. There wasn't supposed to be a stop there. The doors opened. A man stepped aboard. He looked about 40 years old. He wore a soaked raincoat. His face was pale. He sat beside Ilya. The smell of wet earth followed him. For several minutes they rode in silence. Then the stranger quietly asked, "Did you take the wrong bus?" Ilya forced a nervous laugh. "What do you mean?" The man looked at him. "The living rarely end up here." Ilya felt his heart skip a beat. "What?" "The next stop isn't meant for you." The man stood and walked toward the back of the bus. He never spoke again. The journey continued. Outside the windows, the city had vanished. Only forest remained, dark, endless. The trees stood so close to the road that their branches scraped against the glass. Scratch, scratch, scratch. The sound grew louder. Then Ilya noticed figures standing among the trees. People. They stood completely motionless. Dozens of them, men, women, children, all staring at the bus, all with pale, lifeless faces. The bus stopped. The doors opened. Several of the figures climbed aboard. Now almost every seat was occupied. The new passengers looked wrong. One woman's face was covered in dark stains. An old man's neck bent at an impossible angle. A young boy carried a teddy bear stained with what looked like blood. Nobody spoke. Everyone sat silently, staring forward. The bus moved again. Suddenly, the elderly woman, who had been sitting by the window from the beginning, spoke. "He's alive." At once, every head in the bus turned toward Ilya. At exactly the same moment, as though they had received a command, cold sweat ran down his back. Dozens of eyes fixed on him. Some passengers began to smile, slowly, unnaturally wide. The girl with black hair whispered, "It's been a long time since we've had a living passenger." Someone in the back laughed, a low, raspy laugh. Then another, and another. Within seconds, whispers filled the bus. "Alive, alive, alive." Ilya jumped to his feet. He rushed toward the doors, pressed the emergency button. Nothing happened. The bus did not slow down. He shouted at the driver, "Open the doors." The driver slowly turned his head. Ilya instantly regretted looking, because where the driver's face should have been, there was only darkness. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just a black void. The bus began accelerating. Outside, the trees blurred past. Then even the road disappeared. The bus was now traveling through dense fog, as if floating through an endless emptiness. The passengers began standing up, one by one, slowly moving toward him. The whispers grew louder. "Stay with us. Come with us. We're lonely." Ilya backed against the door. Then he remembered the stranger's warning. "The next stop isn't meant for you." Suddenly, the bus slammed on its brakes. Every passenger turned toward the windows. Outside stood a single yellow street lamp. An ordinary bus stop. A sign hung beneath it. Final stop. The doors opened. Ilya didn't hesitate. He jumped out, hit the wet pavement, rolled, got back to his feet. The bus remained there for a few seconds. Then the doors closed. Slowly, it disappeared into the fog. After a few hundred feet, its lights vanished completely, as if it had never existed. Ilya looked around. He was on the edge of town, several miles from home. Dawn was breaking. His phone worked again. The signal had returned. The time read 5:46 a.m., yet he had boarded the bus shortly after midnight. Almost 5 hours had disappeared, as though they had never existed. The next day, he told his friends everything. Nobody believed him. They assumed he had fallen asleep or imagined the whole thing. Months passed, then a year. Gradually, the experience faded from memory, until one day, Ilya came across an old newspaper article. It described a tragic accident that had happened years earlier. In 1993, a Route 17 bus had plunged off a bridge during heavy fog. Everyone on board had died. 23 passengers and the driver. Ilya felt his blood run cold. Among the photographs of the victims, he recognized familiar faces. The elderly woman, the girl with long black hair, the boy with the teddy bear, the man in the gray coat, the very same passengers. And they looked exactly as they had that night, not a day older. But the most terrifying discovery came at the end of the article. There was another photograph. The man in the raincoat. The stranger who had sat beside him. On the back of the photograph, someone had written a message by hand. Don't let the living reach the final stop. Since that day, Ilya never rode the last bus again. Yet whenever thick fog settles over the town after midnight, people still claim to see an old Route 17 bus emerging from the darkness. And if you look closely through the windows, you can see silent passengers staring out, waiting, searching, because one seat is still empty.